Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday, brought to you by Idaho Public Television and Montana PBS.
All right, well, welcome everybody to Tech Talk Tuesday, brought to you by Idaho Public Television and Montana PBS. My name is Nikki Bradenberg, and I'm the Director of Education in Montana. And Carrie Wardle, who is my partner in crime for these sessions, is Manager of Education at Idaho Public Television. And she'll be joining us more momentarily, I'm sure. And we do this every month. We invite a couple of teachers to talk to us about a topic of interest and something that they can share experiences about. We want this to be a talk. That's why we call it Tech Talk. And so we really invite your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute and wave and ask a question. We hope that this is a dialogue and that you'll get some great strategies and tools that you could use tomorrow if you wanted to. So we can move on to, and you should see the bottom of your screen, and I'll put the link in the chat box too. You can get this slide deck, and I have a little link there at bit.ly/Tech Talk Tuesday TTT Jan 21. And you can just put that into your browser and you'll have access to these slides. I'm going to put it in the chat box too. And the slide deck has lots of great resources, and there's a bunch of links embedded in there. So you'll definitely want to open that up and follow along, and feel free to share with your colleagues. As I said before, we are recording this. We upload them on YouTube. Carrie puts them in her Idaho, the YouTube channel, and I add it to the Montana YouTube channel too, so that you can refer to it later, or you can share it with other people. So without further ado, I want to introduce our two master teachers that are here to share with us today. Take it away, Katie and Grace.
Sure. I'm Katie Mason. I know lots of you on here, so that's great. I currently teach first grade in the Boise Online School at the Boise School District. I've been teaching for 19 years. I've taught first grade, second grade, and PE. And I'm currently the Idaho Digital Innovator for Idaho Public Television.
Hi, and I'm Grace Reddy, and I teach pre-K at Hawthorne Elementary. It's the small program we're in 4 Title I schools in the district, and hoping to add another school next year. And I am a 2019 Early Learning Champion for PBS from Idaho, and that's me.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in and talk about what is stress versus trauma. So according to researchers, stress is anything life brings our way that has the potential to upset our balance. Thus, traumatic experiences are always stressful, but stressors are not always traumatic. People are negatively affected by stress when they have not developed a stable set of strategies for coping with those stressors. And so stress it's not always harmful to us. Okay, we can work under pressure, we can, and people have different levels of stress that they're comfortable with and they can handle on a daily basis. But it can be anything that upsets us. And that can be something big, it can be something little. Trauma is something that's always harmful. Okay, it's something, it can actually cause holes in the brain, just like Alzheimer's does. There's been research that's backed that. And so we're going to give you some strategies today for working through those, like with yourself with stress, and if you had some trauma, and your students. Grace actually works in the brick and mortar still, so she's going to give some ideas for still working if you're in the classroom, and I'm going to piggyback with those online ideas also, and so because they might look a little bit different, we've got limited resources. Go ahead.
All right. So in 1995 through 97, the Kaiser Permanente group did a study of 17,000 people with a questionnaire about their childhood and 10 different areas of trauma, asking these adults if they had had these experiences. So it was a huge study. and they found that trauma, including physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, oh, I misspelled emotional there, neglect, parental divorce, mental illness in the home, and domestic violence, substance abuse, or incarceration of a parent. Any of those can be traumatic for a child. And so the study would just ask adults if they had had these as they were children. And then they studied these people and found that the participants that had, the higher the score, the higher the rates of smoking, other substance abuse, missed work, obesity, depression, suicide attempts, diabetes, STDs, cancer, stroke, heart disease, broken bones, and COPD. So when I first heard about ACEs, I was really shocked that it affected these traumatic events in childhood can affect a person's physical health for the remainder of their life. So higher rates of cancer and heart disease, that was very surprising to me. But when you think about it, stress like that isn't mitigated in some way does affect our physical bodies, and over time it can, anyway, there's a correlation between those things. But the good news is, and that's why I highlighted it, that a positive, caring, safe relationship, even one, can help mitigate the effects of trauma in a child's life. And if you're interested, I just put a link to the ACEs quiz there, and it's an article, I think it's NPR, so kind of talking about what your score might mean also. And Carrie, I see you're here. Do you want to talk about ACEs in Idaho?
Hi guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was having some technical difficulties. I'm sorry that I was late. I don't know what the issue was. Yes, so I won't take long, but I did want to talk about, Idaho Public Television has a production coming up. We've partnered with St. Luke's and quite a few other organizations to present a documentary called Resilient Idaho, Hope Lives Here. It airs for the first time February 16th at 8 p.m., but and then we're going to air it multiple times. And then we're also in the process of working on a collection of resources for teachers around this as well, some professional development. It might be interesting to know that at least in Idaho, we have the fifth highest, we're the fifth highest country in the score for kids, in the fifth highest state in the country for kids with ACEs scores of 3 or higher. And the thing is that if you have 3 or more ACEs, that's when all of those, like your life expectancy goes down, and you can start having other health problems. And so we're the fifth highest. So that was, I thought, an interesting thing to know. And then also you can see the chart. These are the highest ACEs in Idaho. So clearly emotional abuse is the largest number of people that have ACEs suffer from emotional abuse in Idaho. And then the other one is divorced or separated parents. So anyway, I just wanted to share that we're going to have a documentary. It's so well done. We talked to some people. One of the people has a 10 out of 10 ACE score, which is crazy. And then we're doing a series of virtual events around this as well in April, May, and June. And like I said, June will be kind of the education one, and we're going to have a really great collection of resources for teachers that'll be available in Learning Media. It's not ready yet, but we will have. So this links you to the website if you're following along, or if you show this slide deck, and I'll put it in the chat here in a second. We have a website, and you'll be able to link from that website to the collection on Learning Media once it's up, and we have it ready for you, and hopefully have some access to some really great resources to help you teach and help kiddos. The reality is that more than 50% of kids now are coming in with some sort of trauma, having suffered some sort of trauma in school, and so knowing about that and being able to help our kids is really important. So I just wanted to put in that little plug for the Hope Lives Here documentary that's coming up. So well done, and and then we'll have just a ton of resources accompanying that.
Thank you, Carrie. So this weekend, this is a new slide. We just put it in. This weekend, I was on a ed camp for PBS on Sunday, and if you haven't ever been to ed camp, it's really fun. And when you go on the national ones for the whole PBS, you get to talk with teachers that are all over the country. So it was a really interesting day, and the subject was self-care, but it also talked about self-care for us as teachers, and then caring for our students that are experiencing a lot of stress during this pandemic. And so I highly recommend this film. It's called A Trusted Space, or actually it's called Redirecting Grief to Growth, A Trusted Space. And it's on PBS Learning Media. And it comes with a 5-day curriculum. And it's really, what I really took away from it was that our kids, our students, that we really have to start with that social emotional learning and creating that space where they feel emotionally and physically safe, and then they can learn. And sometimes we have so much put on us on, test scores and standardize this and benchmarks, and that we can't expect our students to get there until we really get their brain settled down from the stress and the trauma that they've been experiencing. So I can't recommend that enough. It was awesome.
All right. So what do we do if we do see something like on one of our Google Meets or on your Zoom meeting that has alarmed you? So maybe you hear something in the background, or maybe you're seeing a child that needs help. You need to make sure you're contacting someone. So as a teacher, you need to look at your, what's your sequence of who are you going to first? Who do you contact? Do you contact the counselor? Do you contact the nurse? Do you contact the principal? Who's your go-to person? And then you need to make sure you're starting that documentation, whatever your documentation looks like. I personally have a folder in my Google Drive of every single child that I have, and I just have a Google Sheet where I'm just keeping track of whatever's going on. I talk to a parent, have I seen this, and so on. So however you're documenting those things, that needs to start happening immediately if you're seeing something that's alarming you, and you need to let somebody know so they can follow up on that. We're going to move on and talk about self-soothing. So according to Megan Davis, she describes self-soothing as it's generally behaviors that are repetitive, which are learned during a period of time when the child was understimulated and needed to create his or her own way of occupying his or her time. Or self-soothing was used to meet the child's emotional needs at the time. So, and according to Dr. Judith Orloff, she said many sensitive, empathetic people have not learned how to self-soothe if they're upset or when life feels intense. So what do you do? What do we do to self-soothe? I want you to look at your day and think about things that you actually do in your life. Do you do this to deal with emotions? We're stimulating those neurochemicals to raise our mood. Attachment at a young age. What do little babies do? They're attaching to their parents. Trauma actually has more risk factors, and that means you need more self-soothing things in your life. And to a teacher, those self-soothing things might not look like, they might look more like behavior type issues when they're really just that child trying to cope. And you can use self-soothing techniques for coping with health issues and stress. And I want you to look right now. What are you doing right now? What do you have near you? Are you drinking something? Are you eating something? Are you tapping your pencil? I know I'm moving my hands. Are you listening to some music? Do you have a window nearby that you're looking out? Are you using essential oils or something? What's going on in your own life right now that you're doing to self-soothe? Think about your day. Do you need that morning coffee every day? Do you have a morning tea? Do you have an afternoon kind of pick me up drink? You know, what are you doing in the day? Are you having snacks? Do you need salty snacks? Do you need sweet snacks? Are you self-soothing in some sort of way? Yeah, there we go. There's the snacks. Yeah, I know my husband has one of those Peloton bikes, and so he's jumping on and doing that, you know, periodically throughout the day to kind of like, you know, to de-stress. Self-soothing also activates the five senses. Things that you do throughout the day, you might take a bubble bath. You have that touch. Taste, you might suck on a hard candy. Smell, you're lighting a candle or those essential oils. Sounds, you're playing music. And sight, you're watching the clouds. You have a light on. You might have a mood type light, things like that. Those are all activate those self-soothing type things correlated with our five senses. But there are also unfavorable self-soothing techniques. And, you know, little kids, this can happen later. You know, we have alcohol abuse. You're self-soothing through that alcohol, gambling addiction, poor eating habits. That can be overeating, undereating, just eating unhealthy foods, overworking yourself, and smoking. Those are just some examples of some unfavorable ones. For kids, things that you might notice that they're doing to self-soothe. So they might not be able, you know, they don't have the ability in a classroom necessarily to go and have their afternoon, you know, soda pop or to look out a window or things like that. So they might be doing other things. They could be tapping their pencil. They could be patting their hands. They could be doodling, sucking their thumbs or their clothes, shaking their feet, biting their nails, twisting their hair, chewing gum, and bouncing their legs. A lot of those might look like behavior problems when they're just trying to self-soothe them. So, those are just actions they're self-soothing with. What can you do to help? So what can we do to help these students? The first intervention is going to be to allow adequate time for transitions. Use a timer. In my classroom, I use a timer so students know, hey, come back when the timer goes off. You know, I have one timer that the little dog barks and they know, okay, the timer's counting down. I have 3 minutes to, you know, to get myself prepared. When I hear that little dog bark, then the timer's done and I know I have to be ready to go. So you're giving them that help by just transitioning with a time frame. Playing music. While you're waiting for class to begin or a transition within class, you can play Mozart in the background. That's one of those self-soothing techniques, just to play those classical type musics. Give clear expectations to your students. So every day I'm going over, what does that Google Meet etiquette look like? They need to understand, you know, how I should be acting. So they need to find a quiet spot. They need to be on time and prepared. They need to be dressed appropriately. Their cameras are on. Their mics are muted. They raise their hand to speak. There's no chatting on the side or in the chat box. So if I give those clear expectations, then my students are going to have a better understanding of what is required of them. And that takes that stress level down. Posting your daily schedule and reviewing it. This is my class schedule, and every day we go over it. You know, and we pretty much have the same routine, but I'm still reminding those students that might be in that state that, hey, we're doing our morning meeting right now. Then we're going to take our break. Then we have our ELA time. Then we're taking a break. You know, if you're just laying that out and presenting it to them, then they can feel more ready to go for their day. That helps that stress level come down. Provide learning goals. So goals for the day, what does that look like? I go over this every day with my kids. We are attending our Google Meets. You have 3 Google Meets to attend in the morning. You have 1 in the afternoon. You need to do your seesaw activities, you know, whatever those activities are. And that can look different. You know, that looks different in my virtual class where they're working on their own. But for a teacher, you know, in a brick and mortar, you're going to put the same thing up. You know, we're going to do a math worksheet today. We're going to do a reading activity. We're going to do centers, you know, whatever that looks like for the day. You're sharing those learning goals with those students and reviewing them often. Supporting parents. That collaboration, that communication is a key factor in helping students with their stress levels. And because, you know, if those parents can be stressed, then it trickles down to the kids. So having those parents have tools where they can be prepared to help their child. This is just an example of what mine looks like. I say, help your child find that quiet spot, remind them to be on time so they're more prepared and ready to go. They're not missing anything. Have their school supplies ready and nearby. And just talking to parents about making mistakes. Those kids are going to make mistakes, and how do they cope with that? And, and giving that encouragement to their own children. And then extra support. I always offer office hours, time to sign up, and to meet with me if they need to in that virtual setting. And then of course, in a brick and mortar, it just might look like, the parent coming in to talk to you, or, you can have those quick interactions like at the bus, where in a brick and mortar or in a virtual setting, then they're going to need to set up a time with me, and we can make a phone call or have a Google Meet or a Zoom conference.
So Katie, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you, when you're in like I guess either, but do you allow the kids, if you see them doing those sort of self-soothing things, do you allow them to just do them, or do you, should you stop it? I mean, I know some things like tapping a pencil might be distracting other kids, but I'm thinking of things like sucking the thumb or sucking on your shirt or things like that. Do you stop kids from doing those, or should you allow them to continue?
And maybe Grace can talk about this too, but, as far as me in the online setting, it's a lot different than a brick and mortar. In the online, they can do, they can tap their pencil away if they're on mute, and they can suck their, their shirt and things like that. I teach first grade normally, and I wouldn't allow the thumb sucking. We would talk about other ways. There are kids that have like those teething necklaces and things like that they've used for those self-soothing. But yeah, kids do, they suck on their shirts, and I remind that, maybe that's not it. Maybe we should find other alternate, ways to self-soothe. But if that's working for that child, and they need to, and they use that as a learning tool, and it's not bothering anybody else, then I think it's perfectly fine to do.
But also maybe it's a signal that there's not something okay, right? Because they wouldn't be soothing if everything was fine, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Those are those outlier. Yeah, absolutely. That could be a first initial, like, I need to start some documentation here. This is what's going on. Let's talk to a parent. Let's talk to my colleagues, my teammates. Absolutely. Those are things that we're looking for. Yeah. Students. Grace, maybe you want to piggyback on that?
Well, I think it's just kind of on a case by case. And a lot of times, if they're sucking on their shirt, that's just not sanitary and, pretty gross. Nose picking is another one that just, we try and break that habit. But sometimes we can give them alternate things. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're looking for, positive ways that they can fidget a little bit or whatever they need to do.
Yeah. And we'll go over some of those fidgeting type, ways that you can give them alternative ways to do that in our presentation. So another way, at least for the virtual setting, that you can kind of offer a refocus type space. In the brick and mortar, if a child's, needs a timeout, kind of stress relieving time, there might be a designated place in your classroom, right? Like go to our quiet corner, or go to our safe corner, or whatever you might call that area. It might have glitter jars and, refocusing type papers and things like that. In a virtual setting, what does that look like? You can't just say, hey, go to the corner of your room, right? So you can send kids to a breakout room. So in my own class, I just have first graders. So I might say, hey, little Johnny, click on this Google Meet link, click on the link in the chat box and go hang out there for a little bit and then come back. And it's just a quick, click of a button. They can do that. A 6-year-old can do this. And they're in a breakout room on their own. But then you're going to say to yourself, well, why are we going to a breakout room? What does that look like? How's that going to help that child? It's just going to offer a space for them to take a quiet break on their own. Now I have 2 computers, so I can monitor that kid in that quiet breakout room. Okay. I can, and I'm already going to have a preset slideshow. Okay. And the slideshow can just run on, repeat. That slideshow has calming music. It has scenery. but just going to give that kid just a kind of a little refocus. So here's an example of some of mine. It's just some trees in a forest with some music playing.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just a mountain. So they're just looking at scenery to try and calm themselves down, listening to that music. They're all on their own. When they're ready, then they can come back to our class. So here's just an example of what mine looks. Another way is, those kids that need to like be active is offering a space to create. So in my school district, we use Jamboard. So again, it can be a link. Hey, here's your link to your Jamboard. Doodle away. Draw a picture. And then share it with me. I'd like to see that picture. Talk with them later. You can meet with them. What was this picture about? Draw a picture of what your frustrations are. Draw a picture that's going to make you happy, or let them be creative. Art. We'll talk a little bit later about it, but art contradicts trauma, so that helps out. In Zoom, there's Zoom whiteboards. You could send a child to the whiteboard. Go draw a picture. Take a break. And then come back when you're ready. Simple brain games. You can do this with the entire class. You can send it again. You could send this with a kid into their own little space, like on their own little Google Meet or their own Zoom Meet, or you can just do this as a whole group to reset. It's just things like follow the dot around, and it kind of resets the brain. Just gives you a quick little break. I'm going to follow the dot. I've kind of reset and I'm back. There's an example of what that looks like.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So you're just giving yourselves an example. And here's another one. So real quick. There's some just following the dot, resetting the brain, taking a little brain break. Okay. All right. Go Noodle. Go Noodle is another excellent resource. It's free. It offers a variety of relaxation videos, yoga, other movement activities. If you sign up for Go Noodle, there's a Go Noodle Plus. I think it costs about $10. Otherwise, the free ones are absolutely free. Here's an example. I just used the free version. There's a whole mindfulness section, talks about boosting confidence, compassion, focusing, managing stress, self-control. There's all these breathe videos I do with my kids every day. There's kind of an example of one of them that the kids love.
Did you know you breathe about 15 to 25 times per minute? That's 21,000 to 36,000 breaths a day.
Ooh, that's a lot of breaths.
And now we're going to triple it by doing some bunny breaths.
Ooh.
To get your bunny breath on, take 3 quick sniffs in, like you're sniffing around for carrots,
Okay.
and 1 long exhale out. Try it. Now, get comfortable, close your eyes, or keep them open, whatever feels right, and let's bunny breathe. Ready? 3 quick sniffs in and breathe out. 3 sniffs in and out. Sniff in and out. 3 sniffs in and out. Sniff in, breathe out. In and breathe out. Sniff in, breathe out. 3 in, breathe out. 3 in and out. 3 sniffs in and out. Sniff in and out. Nice bunny breathing.
Oh, thank you.
You know, bunny breaths are great for when you get so upset that you can't catch your breath.
Oh, no, I lost my poor meatballs.
No worries, Fabio. Just bunny breathe.
That's much better. Thank you.
All right. So if you actually did those bunny breaths, maybe do you feel a little bit better right now? Maybe more oxygen. Yeah, those just help, and those help kids kind of re-stress or refocus and manage that stress. There's lots of options on Go Noodle. Okay, is this you, Grace, or is this still me?
I don't know.
I can keep going.
You can keep going.
Yeah, okay. Chime in when you want.
Okay.
Okay, chewing gum. Chewing gum has kind of been another debate in schools. Do we let kids have gum or not? Right? There's research behind it helping relieve stress. So it decreases anxiety and stress by reducing those cortisol levels, and it helps students stay focused. Sour gum gives that stimulation, and sweet gum soothes. So some teachers do allow kids to have gum. There might be, it might be a school-wide yes or no, but that definitely helps. And if you're in a virtual setting, that's something, that like the child has that at home that they can easily get to.
I want to know if that's the gum wall in Seattle.
Yeah, it is.
Which I've been to, which really grossed me out, but it's kind of cool too, but
yeah,
that's all gum stuck there behind that girl.
Yeah, it's a must see. What?
I said that's gross.
It is, yeah.
Stuck behind her. That's disgusting.
Yeah. I think they scrape it off like every few years too, because it gets so full. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to think about the fact that when you're in there, it's like all around you.
Yeah.
It's not just a wall.
It's like an alley. Yeah.
Yep.
That is not a place I need to visit, I don't think.
Okay. Simple body movements, stretching and moving can help reset the brain and reduce mental stress. These are quick activities that can reset a child and even an adult. So what do those simple body movements look like? For me, in my virtual class, one thing that I also do is that Go Noodle, going back to that Go Noodle. We do Go Noodles right before all of our breaks. I kind of call it their PE time. So I make them, we get up and we move around. They're all guided. There's lots of options in that Go Noodle. There's 1 minute options up to, there's a whole entire recess breaks of like 25 minutes. And then here's some other movement ideas that you can do with your students. Tapping is another excellent thing that you don't need to have any tools. It's also called the emotional freedom technique, and it creates energy and balance, and it uses pressure points that can help anxious students. So there's some videos. I won't show all those videos, but if you want to try some tapping right now, I'll kind of give you, we can try this together. If you want to kind of form your hand into a C, and that first pressure point we have is you're just tapping right here. Okay. Just tapping. Okay. And then your next pressure point is your collarbone, right below your collarbone. You're just tapping right below your collarbone. Okay. This kind of uses those pressure points to relieve some stress. And then you're going to move up to right below your chin. And then right above your lip. And then right below your cheekbones. And then right on your temples. And then right above your eye. And then on top of your head. How do you feel now? Do you feel a little bit like less stressed? I feel like I kind of almost feel a little bit cold now. Like it just kind of resets your body, gives you some more maybe energy, just taking a little break like that. But yeah, tapping is an excellent one. If you, just start doing this. And sometimes in my class, if I just start doing this, while I'm talking or giving a presentation, I'll see kids just start following along. And it's just, we don't even have to say anything. We just, I'm just giving them that little bit of movement, that little bit of stimulation, and we're still continuing on with our lesson. It's not even, it's not even disruptive, I guess. We'll zip through these. Those are the videos. I won't show all those videos, but you're welcome to, look through those on your own. They're in the presentation. Okay, this is Grace.
Okay, so one thing that I do is kind of a smart start for the day, and it's just kind of a part of our daily routine. And again, I teach little kids, but I think some version of this is helpful in any grade, at least in elementary. So I start with a song every day. It gathers everyone. It's fun. There's movement, which again, we talk about can do a reset. We cross the midline. So we're engaging both sides of the brain. And one of my favorites is Jack Hartman's Awesome Day. And get kids up there, and it has cute kids in the video. And I won't play it, but it is. We did that one today in my class. And fair warning, though, you'll probably have it in your brain all day long if you play it. Okay, next slide. And then after we do a gathering song, we do the 3 C's to start our day. And we do something to calm. So we do a calming strategy, some of those breathing techniques like Katie was talking about, like the bunny breathing. And I'm kind of a conscious discipline groupie. And so we do balloon, pretzel, and drain. And I'll talk about those more. And then we do a connection, some sort of connecting activity. And that was one thing that was in the film that we saw this weekend that I told you is on PBS Learning Media. That connection is so important for kids. And during the pandemic, it's been really challenging because usually what I do is the kids get in pairs and they do a little version of a nursery rhyme, or and they're actually like twinkle, twinkle, little star. They're actually twinkling their fingers together and patting their friend on the shoulder and essentially singing the song to their partner. And so during pandemic, we've had to change up, of course, because they can't be touching each other's faces. And so one thing that we've been doing now, sitting in a circle, 6 feet space, is passing well wishes. So I say, Mawazo, I hope you have a great day. And then she says it back to me in some form, and use my name. We're really big on looking at the person, using eye contact. And then she turns it and passes it to the next person. Amari, I hope you have a great day. And then he says, thank you, Mawazo, I hope you have a great day too. And then he turns to the next person, and it goes all the way around. So that's one way to connect. Our music teacher sings this song, which they love, and I've done it on virtual and also in person. Is just the simple to the tune of Farmer in the Dell. Okay, so us early childhood people were always singing, and it's usually a piggyback song with some tune. But so I would say, Katie is here today. Katie is here today. Clap, clap, clap your hands because Katie is here today. Katie, who else is here? And then she picks somebody else from the screen or from the class, and then we sing to that person. And they're so excited when, it's their turn. But connecting is really important. And then we commit. And so each child makes a specific commitment for a positive behavior for that day. And of course, they're all important, but we really teach these positive behaviors explicitly, and we practice and we role play. And so they all know, and then they, at that part of the day, they can make a commitment. I will use my listening ears, or I will use kind words today. And of course, we want them to do all of it all the time, but that's their commitment for the day that they're really going to focus on. And then at the end of the day, we can return and go, well, how did you do today using your helping hands? Like the kid that didn't help clean up. How'd that go for you today? Did you use those helping hands? Or the quiet voice. That's a big one in a pre-K class. So I put the Conscious Discipline website on there if you want to check it out. It's got great stuff.
Yeah.
So there's the drain, just holding your arms out straight and squeezing, and then let the water out. That's a calming strategy. Pretzel is actually my favorite. It's not the kids' favorite, but it's where you cross your hands, if you can see me. Crossing your hands and clasping your hands together. And then you put your tongue up on the roof of your mouth and breathe in through your nose. Hold it out through your mouth. And she says, Becky Bailey says that if you blow out longer than you breathe in, that's where that extra calming comes in. And we do it 3 times. We repeat it 3 times. Those pretzels look good. I must be hungry. Popcorn. This looks like fun. This was Katie's. If you want to talk about that one, Katie.
Oh, sure. So you sit on your hands. So you sit on your hands, and I'll say pop, and the kids just lift up off the chair. So you're just lifting off the chair like you're popping. So if you do this really quick, it's just giving a little quick reset, kind of getting the blood pumping, out of your chairs. That's a really easy one to do in a virtual setting, and of course in brick and mortar too. Cat position. So you can curl. I say curl up like a cat. So actually, my kiddos, just get together and curl yourself up, and you're just going to hold that position for 10 seconds. And then I say make that kitty bread, that kneading. Okay, and you're moving around and it's just resetting. All right. Yeah. Stretching. Yep. On the floor. This was one I had to think about, because in my own classroom, I did it all the time when I was in brick and mortar. I said I would actually walk by the kid that was fidgety and bump his pencil off the ground, off the desk, and say, "Oh, pick up your pencil." And just that act of bending down and your head going downward actually gives a reset of your brain. Okay, that body movement. So it's really easy in a classroom, right? But how that help? Could I do that in a virtual setting? So now I just tell the kids, and I'll just do it for all the kids. If I see if one kid needs it, but I'll say, "Oh, look around on the ground. Do you see a piece of trash? Do you see something you can pick up? If you don't see something, then go reach down and touch your toes." That's what we do in our class, just to reset. In a virtual setting too, those are things I do in the virtual. Another option for brick and mortar is, you've probably heard it many times, but just, giving that student, can you go take a note to the teacher next door? Then they're getting up out of their desk, they're walking, they're moving, and they're coming back and sitting down and resetting. So those are some options, virtual and brick and mortar. Tools to help. So, if you're in a brick and mortar, you probably have lots of little tools to help your students. I know some things here's a stress ball. My husband loves these little fidgety. He's like a rubber band fidget thing, fidget spinners, Play-Doh. I know Nikki's talked about having some putty she uses. Yep, there's her putty. Yep, there it is. There's all these little reset kind of things, sand timers, glitter jars, bands underneath chairs. I have these little bitty seats that are just, the kids can, it's almost like a balance ball for your seat. But in a virtual setting, I can't go give these kids these activities, right? I can't drive to their house. So what am I going to do? What's that going to look like? Well, guess what? A rubber band and a hand movement can do so much. So lots of kids have rubber bands. So this little video kind of gives you an example, and the kids can just watch this. Here we go. And you might want to try it yourself. Just moving our fingers. I'm just going to give them some of these techniques. So just say, hey, touch your fingers. And there's wrists. Just on the end of their table or wherever they're sitting, and just have them move their wrist up and down. I'm doing both of them. This is a hand circuit. Stretches. For my own kids, it might not have something like that. I'm just telling them to squeeze their hand. I just tell them squeeze their hand, squeeze. Okay, not virtual, just getting that, I mean, it's nice to have that tool. If you don't have that tool, then we're improvising, right? Just squeeze your fist. It's almost like that drain where you're kind of squeezing and letting it out. And then here's that rubber band one, which a lot of my kids actually really like this one. They found a rubber band at their house, pretty much everybody has one, and they're just stretching their fingers out. And I can see them on their, on my Google Meets often, just with their little rubber band, just, you know, getting that, that movement in there. Art and trauma. So art and creativity counteracts that trauma. So like I was talking about earlier, sending that kid over to that Jamboard or that Zoom whiteboard, just to draw. It just gives that, it just kind of resets you. You can have students create art while they're listening to you talk. This can be done with anything in the house. It doesn't have to be, if you're brick and mortar and you have all these pieces, you know, pipe cleaners, just twist the pipe cleaners, cut the paper, you know, crinkle it, draw while you're listening. But that you might not have those things in a house. I'm thinking of my students, a lot of them don't have those things, but they might find something that they have, right? Do they have a crayon? Do they have popsicle sticks? Do they have paper? Anything in their house they can create art with, okay? Again, those Jamboards and those virtual whiteboards are great. You can have students share and talk about their art. That art piece might represent how they feel. So you can have them say like, well, how are you feeling when you drew this picture or you made this? You know, just talking through those feelings and those emotions. And passive participation is also relevant. So I think it's important to give those students a, you know, you don't have to present. It's okay if you don't. As long as you're actively participating in the activities. And just like Grace was talking about earlier, singing songs that include their names. That's another important part of that art, that music and art piece, and counteracting that trauma. And I think Carrie was going to talk about Sesame Street. Maybe.
Sure. I love, and this is just a really great resource for teachers, parents. So Sesame Street has, I mean, who doesn't love Sesame Street already anyway, right? And the Sesame Street Foundation has created a website called Sesame Street in Communities. And on that website, they have a ton of resources available to teachers and parents as well, for all kinds of things. And actually quite a few of those ACEs are on there. There's like an incarceration, there's an entire section on incarceration, there's an entire section on divorce. So, you know, several of those things are on there, and you can get, obviously there's just some little videos and things, but you can also download, you know, activities and a variety of things that go with that. And then there's also kits and things for teachers. So just check that out. But then the other one that my son loves is an app called Breathe, Think, Do, that was created by Sesame Street. And it's got a little monster guy on there, and he's so cute. And he tells the kids to, you know, take a breath, think about what is, you know, when you're feeling anxious or angry or upset, you know, take a breath, think about it, and then go do it. Because, you know, sometimes we don't think before we do it. I still don't do that, but especially kids who have suffered trauma, because that fight or flight reflex for them just kicks right in and they don't. So it really just teaches them to like breathe, think about it, you know, take a breath and do it. And like I said, my little guy, he loves the Breathe, Think, Do app. He'll just open it up at home and just be like, and it cracks me up. So that's a really cool app if you have a device, you know, or kids at home have a device as well, that you can send them to. If they need a minute to reset, I think, and you're in a classroom, even in like a brick and mortar, if you have iPads or something, that you could have them grab the iPad and go take the Breathe, Think, Do app and do it for a few minutes. So if you haven't checked that stuff out, please do. And again, all of this stuff is available for free. All of the stuff that's on the website you can download. It's accessible for you to watch or download and print off for your kids. You can order books and little toolkits. And so there's all kinds of things that are available to you as well through Sesame Street and Community. So if you haven't checked it out, we'll share out the slide deck after this with that. And there's links to this app, but it's sesamestreetandcommunities.org.
Okay, and our last activity is just, how do you feel now? You know, if you actively participated, how do you feel? Do you feel better? Think about other presentations when you are inactive and you're just sitting there versus this active one. How does your body feel right now? Do you feel a little bit more like less stressed? Do we give you some techniques that might help you stay more focused and you know, and relieve some of that? And then imagine being a student and how embedding these techniques can help them. So just those very simple movements that, you know, you can help your students without even, you know, disrupting the lesson. You know, these are all activities that are quick and simple and free, and that you can do in your classrooms. So, the last thing is just the show notes. If you have any, if you wanted to go to some of these resources, you're welcome to further your knowledge there. So, and that's all that I have. If anyone else has anything to add or any questions or anything.
That was just wonderful. I learned so much. Trauma-informed teaching isn't anything I've had a lot of training on, and it was really important. I think it's becoming more and more important. So I really appreciated all of that. We would invite anyone to ask questions. You can just unmute right now and ask Katie and Grace anything you're wondering about. And if not, I think, do we have your emails on a slide?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the first slide.
Yeah.
So if something comes up, feel free to email these ladies, and I know that they would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. All right, well, thank you to Grace and to Katie for giving us your time this afternoon. We really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who joined us. We started out with, I think, 13 teachers on the call. So that was great to have so many people join us today. We will have the recording uploaded sometime this week. So take a look for that. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you,
job, everybody. Bye.
Bye.